morning, everyone. Time to start our Sunday morning class. Jeff, can you get that door? Thank you. As always, like to thank everyone for showing up this morning. Those of us that are able to, and praying for those that were maybe not able to be out this morning. Hopefully, they'll come out later on this morning and then this evening. But before we get started, I'd like to ask Brother Vern if he would lead us in an opening prayer.
Pray. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you so much for this beautiful day that you've given us to come out here, Lord, and study another portion of your word together and just be with other Christians. And we just thank you for this opportunity, and we thank you for Brother Todd, who's willing to get up there and teach it to us and bring it to us, Lord. And we just pray that you'll give him a ready recollection of the studies, Lord, that he can present it to us in a way that we can understand it and make us better Christians. Thank you for all your many blessings.
Amen. Thank you very much. And as Brother Vern said, to make us a better Christian, that is always something that I'm trying to do, because although we are not of the world, we live in the world, and because we live in the world, we have a lot of distractions. No. It's smooth sailing. With that being said and done, Landis reminded me and brought me up to speed that we're in Acts the 30th chapter. Acts the 18th chapter, verses 18 to 28. Acts 18, 28. And I keep cutting out. So anyway, there we go. I will try to my very best to speak a little louder. Acts 18, 18 to 28. What are we dealing with here? What are we dealing with Acts 18, 18 to 28? What are we dealing with in this 10 short verse?
Well, the second missionary journey, partly.
Okay. What else?
They meet with Apollos
Mm-hmm.
and
Two other major figures.
Priscilla.
Exactly. What do we know broadly, specifically of Aquila and Priscilla? What do we know about them?
They're tent makers.
Okay. What was Paul?
His taker.
Okay. What else do we know about those two?
About who?
What?
Who?
Aquila and Priscilla. What else do we know about them besides being tent makers, working with Paul?
Well, they were Christians.
Christians.
Jewish Christians.
And
They had Paul stay with them, didn't they?
yep.
Yeah.
Paul stayed with them, if I'm not mistaken, for probably a year and a half. When Paul stayed with them, he went back also, do roles, making tents. So while he's spreading the gospel with those two and encouraging the church, he also worked as a tent maker. We find out what brought Aquila and Priscilla to this area.
They were kicked out of where they were, Rome, because the Caesar run them out.
Claudius.
Pardon?
Claudius, he was governor at there
Yeah.
and everything. So, because Aquila was a Jew, Claudius was on a rampage, kind of like Hitler was, as far as expelling and or persecuting the Jews. So they saw it fit to get out, and this is where it ended up, Paul got with them. Now, Paul knew them from before. So it was a good thing for these three to get back together because it was a twofold benefit for all the churches in that area. Because when you look at this circumstances, they were encouraging multiple churches in that area. We talked about Apollos, we'll talk about him more, but specifically with Aquila and Priscilla, they were very, very instrumental in also edifying other Christians and other churches. This is also a prime example of, let's just say, a husband and wife team. We have a husband and wife team here in Florida. Where are they? North Florida. Panhandle. What's that church?
East Point.
East Point. That's another prime example of a husband and wife team. But let's not, we're going to go over this again, let's not confuse this as just because a wife or woman is assisting her husband in, let's just say, teaching the scriptures or Bible studies or anything, it does not constitute a woman having authority over a man and teaching, as in some or a lot of denominations and everything. Speaking with one co-worker of mine and everything, finally found out what religion she is. And this is not anything towards her or the religion. She's Baptist. They're dealing with a problem in the church where they have people that have come in and have become Baptists from other denominations. But the problem with this is, and you see it a lot, and sometimes it happens in the Church of Christ, thank goodness we have elders to stop this. What they're dealing with, these people that have been there, that have come into the church and everything, are spreading wild theories. And when I say wild theories, I mean when she was talking to me, even I was like, batting my eyes and everything. I did not get an indication that they had elders in that church to help stamp this out. Some of the things that she said that we're dealing with, now this is a congregation for, she says, on average about 600-700. Well, some of the things they're dealing with is specific individuals are believing in raising people from the dead in this day and age. One of the things that they posted on their little offshoot away from the church is one of their roles is to give Christ the authority to spread the word and other things. To give Christ. Now, oddly enough,
I thought Christ was king.
that's what I said too, more or less. So my thing with her is, who are we to give him authority?
That's what I mean.
Exactly.
He's king.
One of the other wild things about this situation, and there's many others, because they are following. I forgot, I got it on my phone. I haven't had a chance to read through it. I told her to send me all this information so I could read upon it. And the reason why I did is because it is beneficial and it behooves us to know what other people are saying out there in the world. That way, if we are confronted or questioned by them, as far as what we believe in and or trying to get us to believe in what they believe in, at least we have an understanding of what they're teaching. So Jehovah's Witness and other denominations come knocking on the door and everything. You may be a little annoyed and everything, but it's kind of best for you to kind of hear them out.
At least we ought to be able to give an answer.
Exactly. Now, before I go into the lesson or anything, one other wild thing, my coworker, husband is the preacher. They singled her out to try to get her to join this group. And I told her, I said, you know what they're doing. I said, because you're the preacher's wife, they're also trying to use you as influence. She's also said that a few days ago, her husband got a phone call from another church member saying, just to let you know, One of these said members, which is about 31 years old, was arrested on 17 counts of possession and distribution of child pornography. Sad. But this is what is going on in the world. And like I said earlier, if we did not have elders, this is what could happen within the Church of Christ. I also told her that get ready for a split, because it's not many of them, but I said, do they have influence and conversations with other members in the church? She said yes. Now, with that being said and done, a weaker Christian may fall for some of this stuff. A person that comes from out of a denomination into the Church of Christ carries baggage with them. If nothing else, they carry knowledge of what they were in before, speaking of which me. Not that I ever would, not that I ever did. I became a member of the Church of Christ in 1987. Not that I ever would, not that I ever will. Whatever I know or knew of the Catholic Church stayed in here. If you ask me a question or find a time, I talk about my experience in the Catholic Church and that follows. So, Acts 18 to 28. It's 10 verses. Priscilla and Aquila came from Italy to escape Claudius. He was emperor, governor, proconsul in that region. Because, like I said earlier, he was on a tangent, just like Hitler, to expel and or persecute the Jews in that area. Now, here's a good thing at the very beginning of page 63, if we all have a book. It says, Paul returned to Antioch of Syria, 1822. It says in verse 18 to 19, since Gallio, I think Brother Bob had mentioned this person right here, would not yield to the prejudiced attempt of the Jews to punish the disciples, Paul was able to remain in a good while. Now, reason why I brought him up, he's only serving just one line in this right here. Why didn't he go along with the Jews? Why? Because he can care less. He didn't go either way on what they were talking about versus the alleged allegations of the Paul and them spreading lies and everything. Not only that, he did not see it fit to get in religious squabbles, which some others in the Bible, they went along. One other did and said, well, who's that wife that said, have nothing to do with this man? And he said, my hands are clean, you guys deal with it. Now, here's the point that I'm making with all of that, with that individual and this individual. The Jews were so hypocritical and cowardice to where they were always trying to push someone up to do their dirty work. That way, whenever things go south, they can say, wasn't me. But this individual, Gallio, he said, no, I'm not getting involved with this. And what was the end results of him rebuffing them and not being swayed to their attempts? Now, there's one individual, forgot his name, begins with a C. There was one individual, let's just say the head instigator, brought these claims of allegation towards Paul and them and everything to Claudius. What was the outcome for that purpose?
He calmed down. Calmed down, didn't he?
Nope. It would have been better for him to calm down. The same said people that pushed this individual to go to Claudius with these accusations, they turned on him and beat him. So it's like, you're of no use to us, but we're so enraged. And like a lot of the things that we've studied in the gospel, people have so much prejudice and hatred towards Christ and the disciples that they go to such extremes to where you couldn't accomplish what we wanted, so now we're going to punish you. It's sad. Nowhere in the scriptures you will read with Paul, Peter, Barnabas, Aquila, and Priscilla beating up the people that they are trying to talk to. That is not Christ's way. That is not the Church of Christ's way. So it's sad that we have situations like this, not so much as probably the physical violence and everything, but let's just say within your family, physical family, biological family, oh, you're going to the Church of Christ? You're not going to such and such Baptist church that countless generations went to and everything? Now you're excommunicated. We all seen this before, right? We've all had experiences on one level or another where our family members treat us differently because we go to the Church of Christ. And if we try to have conversations with them between the difference or the doctrinal difference, then they look at us like we have leprosy. Questions and comments? Okay. So this gentleman, Gallio, he refused to be persuaded with their nonsense. So it goes on to say, instead of leaving under duress, which he's done before Paul, he was able to fill the ministry there in many in a manner he desired, But evidently he proposed to sail back to Antioch of Syria, where he began these journeys, and he took with him Priscilla and Aquila. This is where they come in as far as Ephesus. And then when Paul left Ephesus, he left them there, and then they played a major role in what's going to be coming up. The text said he shaved his head in Caesarea. Who did this, Paul or Aquila? We don't know. Now, has anyone wondered why Paul shaved his head? Do we have any history notes or reasons or anything else on why Paul shaved his head? Anyone? Landis? Well.
I don't know. I don't know.
And that's good. Now, there's several reasons, and one of the main reasons is because it's a Nazarene vow. Another reason is, under the Nazarene vow, I should say, and other things, it was probably Paul giving thanks for escaping persecution. Now, one of the theories on top of a few others, but that's the main one that I've looked at kind of veer off in a lot of different directions and everything. Now, with that being said, a vow, or let's just say under vow. Is there any problem with making a vow?
No.
Why not?
Because you can make a vow, you can agree to something. But you just got to keep it.
You have to be careful. We don't swear by God. Those of us that have been to court for various reasons, for any given time and everything, they want you to put your hand on the Bible and swear by God. I tell them I don't do that. I say I affirm or whatever they want you to say, so forth and so on and everything. So like Brother Landis said, there's nothing wrong with keeping a vow. There's nothing wrong with fasting. None of those things are not scripturally denied. We all have reasons for, let's just say, fasting from food. Now me, I talk about this a lot. If you see Todd fasting concerning food, he's fasting trying to get to food. Okay? I am not judging anyone that does that and everything, but the whole idea of fasting and making vows is to focus your mind on the vow you've made, or to focus your mind on the task at hand, and that is to be a better Christian and to focus and to meditate on things that are just and set forth in the scriptures. So like Brother Landon said, there's nothing wrong with that, but just be careful when you make a vow. Just like in other classes and other sets and everything, if you're going to tell somebody you're going to be at their house to do something, to help them, if you cannot make it, be at least courteous, respectful, and kind, and mature, to call a person and say, hey, look, something's come up, I can't make it. When you go before God and you make a vow or you swear, the stakes are a lot higher. So it's important for us to remember that.
Jesus said, let your yea be nay, yea, and let your nay be nay.
Exactly. Or, as I've learned a long time ago, with the older generation, when it comes down to two men making an agreement, what are the two main things that stand out with that? A nice firm handshake and a straight look in the eye. When you got somebody you're talking to and you're talking about them and everything, and they give you a whole limp fish handshake and they're looking all off in the world and everything, chances are you're going to get folded over like a cheap lawn chair. So we talked about Paul shaving his head and everything. We talked about it was a Nazarene vow. You can find that in Numbers 6, chapter 6, verses 1 through 21, in which one who made a solemn promise to God agreed to certain self-imposed restrictions. 1, no drinking of wine. 2, no cutting of the hair, or beard. This is where Paul falls in it. And 3, not touching any dead bodies or corpses. Okay. The length of time for this vow would vary from 8 days to a month or even one's entire life. He now shaves his head because the time proposed for this vow had been fulfilled. So he talks about that and everything. We'll talk about that and everything. Next paragraph. Paul stopped at Ephesus on his return to Antioch, but he did not stay long. Aquila and Priscilla, who had come with him, remained and laid the foundations for Paul's return on his third journey. He was well received in the synagogues, and the Jews wanted him to stay longer. He's had this experience before in other parts of the Acts and everything, where he was warmly welcomed. And I think the last class that I did, he was warmly welcomed. This group of people in another city found out where he was because they didn't like what he was saying in their city. They traveled to this city to stir up problems. My thing is, if you've gotten rid of your so-called problem and he's in another city, why is it your concern? But with this, he is well received and they wanted him to stay longer. Now, we're going to talk about this more. With any of us, let's just say any of us talking to a family member, a co-worker, whatever, we're trying to talk to them about the scriptures, talk to them about Church of Christ, Christianity, all the things that are involved in that. What is 2 things at least that you wish for that individual or those individuals to have when you're trying to talk to them? Number 1, another one, and a willing heart, which is still an open mind. All too often, we may talk to people and they'll do this. Now, psychologists say when you are talking with someone that folds their arm, they more or less dismiss you already. But in this situation, they welcome Paul. Kind of like the Bereans. With the Bereans, they search the scriptures daily to see if these things were so. So, to the extent to where they wanted Paul to stay longer, who would not want to know more about the Word of God? Especially in our society and our day and age where everything is rush, rush, rush. We have this appointment, this thing to do, that to do, blah, 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 and everything. It's just ridiculous. Before I came to day shift, I was averaging anywhere from 3 to 3.5 hours sleep in between. shifts. Because a lot of times, on the way to work, I'm making stops, and the next morning, I'm making stops also before I go back to work the next day, or that day, or that night, I should say. So who would not want to have someone sit down with them and honestly talk about your soul salvation, rather than someone tossing up smoke and mirrors, and the main objective for them is to get in your pocketbook? This is not what the Church of Christ is all about. This is not what Aquila, Priscilla, Paul, Peter, and all the rest of the apostles are not about. Okay? What is the most important or the most valuable thing that you have in your life? What is it?
Just so.
That's it. Scriptures say, if a man gains the whole world, what can he give in exchange for his soul? Regardless of what we have, let's just say the abundance of it, like I've said before, one or two things are going to happen. Definitely one of them. And the definite thing is, you're going to leave it, or either it's going to leave you. It's nice to have nice things. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying anything against that. But the most important thing that we have in our possession is our soul. Because mankind may destroy you or your body, but only God in heaven can destroy the soul. So let us remember that. Questions and our comments. He was well received, but he did not consent because they wanted to stay longer, but he did not consent because he wanted to return to Jerusalem for the feast. Many believe that the feast referred to the Pentecost instead of the Passover, since he returned by sea. Evidently, back in that time, no sailing was done on the Mediterranean at this time for a year before the Passover. This marks the end of Paul's second journey. He landed in Caesarea and went up to greet the church, probably in Jerusalem, before going to Antioch. Next page, 64. The church at Galatia, Phrygia are revisited. These are some of the places that Paul wanted to revisit. He spent some time in Antioch of Syria, but we are not told how long. Then he departed, returning to strengthen disciples in cities visited on the first and second journey. It is a good thing for, let's just say, people in this position to visit churches that they either established or contact with to help strengthen them. Because like I said a few minutes ago, in our society, in this day and age and everything, one could go batty about some of the things that are going on. I don't do a lot of news watching. I do reading. Because I am not going to be influenced by somebody's opinions and sway decisions. But it is important for us to encourage one another, because not only does it help the person you're encouraging, it helps you, the individual. Because let's just say for those of us who are teachers in any class, what is one of the beneficial byproducts of a teacher? We have to study. We just can't get up here and just start talking about whatever we think, whatever we feel. We just can't get up here and start talking about what we have read and known in the past and everything. Because some details may slip you at any given time. They may come back at some time. And at the same time, when you study and do more study and everything, then you run across more things concerning what you're talking about. So that way, like I said, one of the beneficial byproducts is not only is the person you're talking to being edified and encouraged and uplifted, you're doing the same thing. It is no different in my mind than praying every day to God, being in fellowship with God. This is what helps us Christians, members of the Church of Christ, stay stay in direct contact with the things that we should know, did know, and must know. That's another reason why I said earlier, it is beneficial for us to have conversations from time to time with people from different denominations. Okay? Because once again, when I first started going to the Church of Christ, right off the bat, I knew something was different. Right off the bat, with me knowing something was different with the Church of Christ, I knew something was very wrong with the Catholic Church. And it's still a lot very wrong with the Catholic Church. The main thing that is wrong with any denomination is doctrine. Do you not agree? Hmm?
We've all got the same doctrine. There's one doctrine, one blueprint,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one way to go about doing, what we've been told.
Mm-hmm.
But so many people want to pick this part or that part, accept this part or that part, or add human feelings, add conveniences to what they teach and preach and live. And that's why there's so many perverted denominations, in the world today.
Mm-hmm. Now, adding on to what Brother Lee said, and I'll get with you. I got baptized as Church of Christ in 1987. Let's just say 5 years after that. Back then, there was approximately 378 different denominations out there. Who knows what it is now? Now, as Brother Lee said, we have one doctrine. But some, they want to cherry pick. And when they're in the effort of cherry picking, they slip and say, we all believe the same thing. No, we don't. Because there's one way. And if there's one way, there's one doctrine, then if that's your honest belief, then you'll follow what the Church of Christ and what Christ died for and what we believe in and what we follow. It's not like Brother Lee said, how I feel today, because how I feel today, I may not feel that way tomorrow. How I feel right now, I may not feel that way in 30 minutes from now. Okay? It's not about my convenience. And when you look at it from a convenience standpoint and everything, I've always believed and said this. Becoming a member of the Church of Christ is so freeing because we are not entangled in the things that the world wants to put on us. The things that Christ and God and the scriptures, teaches us to do and not to do saves us from a lot of problems. If we're only honest and dedicated and committed to what it's putting down. This is one of the things we're going to talk about, Apollos. And other people we just talked about, the Jews in the synagogues, open mind. Yes, ma'am. Just say,
He was very specific in what he wanted and how he wanted it done. He's got his way and you do it, and rightly divided. So there's a right way and a wrong way.
okay, two things. Number one, scriptures talk about how God said, these people worship me in vain with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Just because it looks right in our minds or in other people's eyes and stuff like that, if it's not set forth in the scriptures, it's not ordained. Okay? The next thing is this. Like I was talking to my coworker and everything, and I'm listening, because I like to listen and see how far I'm going to get with this conversation. Not say with her, how much information I'm going to get. So on some point, with one of the things they mentioned and everything, I said, that was a good answer. I said, but me, I probably would have said, show me where it says that in the Bible. Whatever you're peddling, show me where it says that in the Bible. If it says in 1 Corinthians 16, verses 1 and 2, give as you prosper. It does not say under the New Testament, give a tenth. It does not say that. From the heart. So, if you gave, let's just say, you sleep on money. And you come in, just use an example, you come in and you give $5. Is there something wrong with that? Why not? She's sleeping on money. She dries her tears with $100 bills. What's wrong with giving $5? Not wrong. It's about the heart. As we talk about in the scriptures and everything, there's another problem, the flip side of the coin. You're sleeping on money and you're giving $1,000 a week, but you're doing it grudgingly or out of necessity. Or you feel as though someone's going to judge you because they know you're loaded, and if you don't give to make a show of it, then they're going to talk about you. God has a problem with that. Here's the main problem, well, one of the main problems. Does God need our money?
It's not our money anyway, it's his.
Exactly.
We didn't get it because of some special power that we have. We got it because we're blessed by God with what we have. And if we don't purpose in our heart to give, and like you say, if you're one that sleeps on money at night, you give $5. You know, you're not perfect. Where's your heart at?
Exactly.
You're only giving $5, and you've got it to give.
Exactly. Exactly. Every good thing comes from above. Like Brother Lee said, and like we know, it's not ours. Because like I said earlier and everything, I don't care if I'm sleeping on money or whatever the case may be and everything. I'm going to leave that one day. And let's just say I don't leave before the house catches on fire and burns up. Okay? It is not about what we feel and what we think when it comes down to following the doctrine, the gospel, the scriptures, what Christ died for. Now, let's just say Christ woke up one day and he was feeling a certain way. He said, I'm not going to die for them. Where would that leave us?
Lost
Mm-hmm.
eternally.
Now, he came down in the form of a man. He experienced everything else that we do, right? So let's just say he had that feeling that they hate me. They're always trying to kill me. They don't want to believe what I'm saying. They've persecuted prophets. They've done this. And the crazy thing about it is, I mentioned this in other class and everything, these are the Jews. The Jews had firsthand knowledge of his coming and who he is. Christ, the anointed one. But nonetheless, they were so wrapped up in their ignorance and hatred and prejudice to where they go to these extents. So like I said, what if he woke up one day and just reminisced on all of this? All the things that was done from the beginning of time up to his time. And let's just say even now, he's gone on to up to heaven and everything. Let's just say, hypothetically, Father, do we really want to waste time on these people? Because look at them. It's been 2,000 plus years, and they're still doing the same crazy things. Why do we want to invest so much thought, effort on a sinful people? So yes, it's not about what we feel. It's not about what we think. This is why the synagogue, the Jews in this area, they welcomed Paul. They wanted him to stay longer. And then you got Aquila and Priscilla. They show up and they're part of the picture and everything. Now, Apollos. Like we talked about Apollos and everything. Apollos was a very, very educated man. At one point, some of the Jews viewed Apollos, more favorably, for lack of better words, over Paul and Barnabas. Meaning as, because he was well known with his education, but it was lacking. He was well educated because he came from a region from where a very, very intellectual people were. Not just him, not just a few people. You know, you got some areas in this, let's just say in the state of Florida, some are a lot less affluent, some are a lot more affluent. Let's just say Palm Beach County. Years back, the Miami Herald used to put out every year what the property taxes were for some of these homes in Palm Beach County, whether it's owned by families or families that own companies, corporations, blah, blah, blah. A lot of these people, for property taxes, were paying $6, $10, $23 million a year just in property taxes. So this is what Apollos is coming from. He's not a stupid man. He's a very learned man. So this is why some of the Jews felt as though, well, you know, he's better than Paul and Barnabas. But, like I said, he was not flawed. He was incomplete. So here comes Aquila and Priscilla. They hear him talking in the synagogues or whatever, anything, right? And then they pull him off to the side. They didn't ridicule a man in front of the crowd. They didn't make a big scene because of what they know. They pulled him off to the side. And just like I said about these Jews in other situations and everything, what was Apollos' attitude? No matter what he knew, he was open-minded. Today, somebody in his position, you're just tent makers. Why should I listen to you? This is what gets a lot of us in trouble also in this world. We think our status, our money, our geographical locations, where we came from or where we are and everything, and other things, status in corporations or whatever, what we do for a living, what we know, our education, we think that holds a grain of sand towards God's outlook. He does not care. What God does care about is an open heart and an obedient heart. Someone that is willing to listen, to reason, because it talks about Paul and Apollos going into the synagogue, not arguing, but reasoning with these people. This is what God wants from us. An open heart and a willing heart to say, okay, I really want to get to heaven. I really want to clean up my act. What must I do? Rather than your tent makers. Questions and comments?
Well, if people were willing to reason with one another with an open mind, an open heart, there'd be far less problems, not only in the religious world, but in
The world as a whole.
general.
Mhm.
You know, everybody's got pride, their ego, or they think their status is important, or whatever, and that they're not willing to just listen, reason, and study.
And I've worked with around a lot of doctors and with a lot of doctors in my going on 34 plus years. I've seen quite a few well-educated physicians go to the cuckoo house I've seen well-educated anesthesiologists do pretty stupid stuff. They're having squabbles with their wife, so they set themselves on fire in front of the wife at the house. This is just sad note, but it goes in reference to what we're talking about, like Brother Lee said. Your status, your standing in the community is not important. So we'll end there, and we'll pick up next week. Thank you for your questions and comments.